And we're very excited because Yehuda is back. If I'm at your attention, we are beginning on time. And we're delighted because Yehuda is going to begin our service this evening with a little bit of more contemporary music. If I'm at your attention, we're beginning on time. And as I said, we're delighted that Yehuda is going to be here this evening, beginning our service with a bit more contemporary music prior to beginning the traditional service with the traditional melodies. And Yehuda is joining us this evening and sharing with us first a Nidre, a melody, and after which two of his own personal compositions, a Nidre.
Every once in a while, Rabbi Steve will hit me up. He'll say, "Hey, there's a verse of Tehillim or a verse of Tefillah that I would like to see if you could put some music to." And a couple of years ago, that's what happened. He asked me to put Psalm 27, which is associated with Yom Kippur, to music. Okay, great. Sounds like a challenge. I'll do it. And it came out a lot better than I expected. But while writing the English part, that's my shtick. I put the Hebrew, and then I'll translate the English, and then I'll try to put something contemporary in English to really drive the message home. That's just my thing. I feel it's important to do that for English-speaking people. So, naturally. So I say, what does Psalm 27 say to me? Psalm 27 says, I hear the psalmist longing and crying out and almost demanding a close and personal relationship with Hashem. And there's a touch of a fear of rejection in there. And so in my English contemporary portion of the song, I tried to include that. And everybody says it's really pretty, so I hope you like it. Shema Hashem, Kol Yecha, V'choneini, V'yaneni. Lord, hear me now, when I call, and be gracious to me, and answer me. My heart longs to know, and you I seek, hide not yourself from me, nor turn away from me. A longing heart will notice true. This is the path I've chosen, a light that guides the way for me and you. Shema Hashem, Kol Yechra Bechonei. Shema Hashem. I'm going to give you a music lesson. One of the hardest parts of songwriting for me is ending a song, wrapping it up. This one was easy. Shema Hashem. You pretty much know those words. What it means is hear me, God. It's almost a demand. Listen to me, God. Hear me. In music, you have resolution, and you can leave something unresolved. I chose to leave that song unresolved. You will resolve it naturally in G. I left it unresolved with the words, hear me, God, listen to me. So, you get music lessons tonight, so here's another one. I played with the table here. In order to get a good position to play an intricate classical piece. So let's see how well I do with this. I think I can do it. Shalom, Levi Yalkom Yisrael, Imeru Amen, Imeru Amen. Oseh Shalom, Bimrama, Uyaseh Shalom, Levi Yalkom Yisrael, Imeru Amen. May the one who makes all peace make peace in our world. May the maker of all love give us hearts to care. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimrama. Oh, yaseh shalom, leilei olkom, yoshvei tzaveh. Oseh shalom bimrama, uyaseh shalom, leilei olkom Yisrael, imeru amen, imeru amen.
Sure.
I love hearing you guys sing along to that. Those of you that sing along, that tells me two things. You've been listening, and that it's good music.
He's been volunteering his love of music now for, I think, 8-9 years, maybe longer, I'm not exactly sure. And he's composed a number of pieces. Oseshalom is his own composition. If you come on a Friday night when he does a guitar Shabbat, you've heard a number of pieces that he's composed himself. And it's a great gift, an act of caring, when somebody offers something of his or her own internal voice for the sake of the community. And we're very grateful. Thank you, Luda. We turn now to the Mincha. In the back of the Matzah the book rests, we're turning out to page 431. This is the opening of the Mincha service and anticipating of the arrival of Yom Kippur in just a few minutes. After this brief Mincha, which is an early way of setting a tone, we'll have the Kol Nidre on page 431, please.
Hopefully that's helpful.
On page 432 on the English side, responsibly, the eyes of all look hopefully to you, and you provide them nourishment in due time. Adonai is righteous in all that is done, faithful to all creation. God fulfills the desire of those who are faithful, listening to their cries, rescuing them. My mouth shall utter praise of Adonai. May all that is mortal praise God's name forever and ever. In a moment we'll be rising for the quiet Amida, the silent private Amida. If you've not yet kindled Yom Kippur candles and you wish to light candles in honor of Yom Kippur, we have candles in the foyer. And the blessing for lighting candles is there on that table. Feel free to stand up at this point in time. We still have a few minutes before it gets dark. So, again, it is traditional to light candles for Yom Kippur. The blessing is, Asher Kitchanu B'mitzvah B'tzvah Ner Shel Yom Kippurim. Remember, Yom Kippur is a nickname, but the original name is Yom Kippurim, the day of Yom Kippurs in the Torah. And that's the blessing, Lavin Yersha Yom Kippurim, followed by Shechianu. And the blessings are there on the table, so please feel free to light candles at this time. Those so inclined are also invited to rise. The Psalm meeting beginning on page 433. One of my favorite prayers of the entire Jewish tradition is found here on page 435. This is a silent portion, but I'm taking a moment just to point out. It's the first stanza on page 435. It's on page 435. You graciously endow human beings with knowledge and teach understanding to humanity. And we open the Mincha service with the statement that the ability to think, to reason, to learn, to grow of our minds. You're Dominic, by the way.
Oh, amazing.
The ability to think, to reason, to learn, to grow with our minds is a gift. And the Hebrew word used for this gift is a very powerful word. It's chen, which gives us the name Chana. Some people translate it as grace, or the divine love of people. Divine love of people is manifest by our ability to think and to reason. Again, a few moments of silent prayer, beginning on pages 435 until 441. perhaps some just into recently. Again, if you like to light Yom Tov candles, there are some candles out in the foyer for that purpose. And if they're not all burning and you'd like to step out at this moment before it gets too much darker, you're invited to light candles. Again, I have no knowing if all of them are kindled or not, but we have candles there with the blessings. The blessings is our Shirkat Shabbat, so like the air show, Yom HaKippurim and Mashiach Yanu. And in a moment, we'll continue with the Kaddish Shalem on page 455. The Elena, please, on page 442. We rise the Elena, page 442. Anticipating in just a moment or two, donning the talit and then opening the aroma for the whole Nidre. Elena is on page 442.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tei gedula l'yotzer reshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samchatenu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu norim, mishtachavim u'mokim, livnei
And on page 202, you have two small statements. First, a meditation recited by some who choose to put on a white robe, a garment. The Yiddish word is kittel. And we know that the color white is very significant during this season, from Rosh Hashanah all the way through to Yom Kippur. White is a sign of purity. It harkens back 3,000 plus years to the time of the ancient Israelite priesthood. And Kohen HaGadol, the high priest, were white, and assistant Kohanim and Levim on various schedules and occasions and times in a regimen changed their garments and changed in and out of white. White is symbolic of purity. It's one of the oldest elements of our ceremony that we still, in one way or another, symbolically perpetuate. And thus you see this little paragraph, a meditation upon which some consider when they're putting on the garment. And now we also put on talit. It's the only time of the year, just approaching evening, when we wear a talit. Talit is not worn at nighttime. Talit focuses on the daylight hours, morning and afternoon, you might say. So if you've not yet said the blessing, which is Lahit Teif, Lahit Teif B'Tzitzit, I invite you to join with me. We say, Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahit teif b'tzitzit. Turning to page 204, the ark was opened. Yeshiva Shalmala is the introduction to the Nidre. Yeshiva refers to a tribunal that is seating, being seated for official protocol. The Yeshiva Shalmala, the heavenly tribunal, you might say. The ark is open.
Yeshiva Shemala Uyeshiva Shemata Al Dat Makom Ve'al Dat Makam Anu Matirin Lihitpalel Im Ha'avarayanim Yeshiva Shemala V'Yeshiva Shemata Al Dat HaMakom Ve'al Dat HaKahal Anu Matirin Litpalel Im Ha'avarayanim Yeshiva Shemala Yeshiva Shemata Im Adat HaMakom Ve'al Dat HaKal Anu Matirin Litpalel Im Ha'avarayanim Kol Nidre V'Sarei V'Charmei V'Konamei V'Chinuyei V'Kinusei Ude Shevikin, Sheviti, Beteidin Muftadin, La Shavirin, Vela Kayam, Nidre, La Nidre, Vesarna la Isarei Ushapuatana la Shebut Dididai dai 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 Kol Nidre Vesarei Vecharamei Vekonamei Vechinuyei Vekinusei Ushevuot Din Darna Udei Shabana Udeacharimna Nedasarna Al-Nafshatana Miyom Kippurim Ze Ad Yom Kippurim Haba Aleinu Letova Kulhon Yicharatna V'kon Kulhon Yehon Sheran Shevitin V'teilin Vutalin La Sharirin Vela Kayamin Nidrana La Nidre Vesarna Bo Esarei Ushevuatana La Shavuot Dididai dai dai Kol Nidre Vesarei Vecharamei Vekonamei Vechinuyei Vechinusei Ushevuot Din Darna Udei La Sharin, Vela Kayamin, Nidre, La Nidre, Vasarna, La Sare.
V'yislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lechager hagar b'tocham ki lechol yishgaga v'yislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lager hagar b'tocha ki lechol ha'am yishgaga v'nislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lager hagar b'tocha ki lechol ha'am yishgaga.
On the facing page, the assurance of forgiveness once in English. The entire congregation of the people of Israel shall be forgiven, as well as the stranger who dwells among them, for all have erred.
Slachna l'avonam hazeh, kegodel chastecha v'kasher nasata le'am hazeh, min Mitzrayim va'edina, b'sam ne'emar. Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha. Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha. Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha.
Adonai replied, I have forgiven as you have asked. Shechiam.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'achayanu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
We are seated. Described Alex. Some of you may have met and heard Alex on Rosh Hashanah. And Alex is, as he said before, in Rosh Hashanah, a third-year rabbinical student. and he came here from Israel. It says something when somebody comes from Israel to Mobile to participate in services. Go ahead, Cal. It has been 3 years since we convened here on Yom Kippur, kept apart by fear and kept out of the building due to concern for others, and now we're back. Thank you. Thank you for returning to our shared spiritual home. And it makes me feel like singing. Hine matzovu manayim shemetafim gam yachad. Hine matzovu manayim shemetafim gam yachad. Hine matzovu shemetafim gam yachad. Which means in English, how beautiful and pleasant it is for sisters and brothers to be together. It's a spiritual poem. It's a psalm from the Bible, the book of Tehillim. And it comes to us from 3,000 plus years ago. These past 2 years, we might say, lost years. And I know that many of us have felt that when we look back, we're not quite sure where we were or what we were doing or when we were doing X or Y. It was blurry these past years, distant, remote, pun intended. It makes us wonder, can we remember when we were back in Shul just for a regular Friday night or Shabbat morning? When was the last time we held this Siddur? Seems like a long time ago. This Siddur came to us about 7 years ago. A new style of Siddur, new poetry, commentary, midrash, more transliteration. The goal was to lift up a current generation. But prior to that, do you remember this? Sim Shalom. We held this in our hands for 25 years. And when this shul was first opened, a new Siddur had just been issued by the conservative movement, and it was brand new in the 1987, 88, 89, 90 age. And it had a lot of good English and some transliteration and some commentary, and it suited us. And for 25 years, we and synagogues all across North America used this Siddur. And the hands of parents, as they raised their children from bar mitzvah, held this Siddur. And the hands of people who were crying because they buried a loved one held this Siddur. And the joy and the love and the ordinary Friday and Saturday from our touch were impressed in these pages. But then we have the new Siddur, the Lev Shalem come, and the Sim Shalom, which means, oh God, put peace into the world. 180 some odd. We're put in a box, boxes in a closet or room, and we said at some point in time, when the time is ready, we will share those Siddurim with someone who needs them, but we have a new Siddur. Sim Shalom. It means to put peace into the world. And you and I know that word because not only is it the name of the Siddur that we held for 25 years, But when you walk into our foyer and you're standing looking at the front wall space of the foyer, to the right-hand wall space, adjacent to the Yortzeit alcove, we have a beautiful architectural feature. I call it a light box. And the words Sim Shalom are decorated upon that light box, and also the name of our shul, Ahavas Chesed. So that prayer, that call, is upon us every time we walk into the building, and now we're back in the building. And the building, the wall, the light box, is reminding us of our mission to put shalom and the love of kindness into the world. Sim Shalom. And I share all this because of an email posted to a listserv about 2 months ago. I'm a member of the Rabbinical Assembly, the RA, the international body of conservative rabbis, and we have members all over the world. And a colleague put out a call for Sim Shalom Sidurim to be donated to impoverished communities. And we hadn't used them for 25 years, and we had talked about at one point doing so. So I emailed a woman named Joanne Friedman, a woman I've never met, from an organization that I had never heard of. The organization is called Kulanu, which means all of us. Kulanu provides Jewish items to remote, isolated, and emerging Jewish communities all over the world. Jewish communities in Gabon, Nigeria, Cameroon, El Salvador, Pakistan, India, Brazil, to name a few. Of the 37 countries wherein small Jewish communities are being nurtured by Kulanu, 15 are on the continent of Africa. I had heard of a Jewish community in Nairobi once, years ago. Back in the days when bulletin boards were posted on walls. I was walking down the hallway in my seminary, and I came upon a posting on a bulletin board, and it advertised a synagogue in Nairobi, Kenya. And so I went home with David still being an infant, and I turned to Minette and I said, maybe I should right away and find out about the show in Nairobi, Kenya. She was not very amused. And literally 3, 4, 5 days, maybe a week later, I met with the search committee of Ahavas Chesed. And here I am. Not Nairobi, thank God, here in Mobile. And that's all I knew about Jews in Africa. So after some phone calls with this dedicated woman, Joanne Friedman, the volunteer director, I shipped 4 boxes of Sim Shalom Sidurim to Kulanu. And I learned recently that 2 boxes of Sim Shalom Sidurim, which were to be taken by a volunteer named Beth, who was a nurse living in Encinitas, California, intending to go on a medical mission to Uganda. But unfortunately, she couldn't do so because of an outbreak of malaria. And so the medical supplies and 2 boxes of Ahavas Sidurim are still with Beth in Encinitas until she gets clearance to travel when hopefully this outbreak of malaria subsides. Malaria is rampant in Uganda, and hundreds, thousands die every year. It's the leading cause of death in Uganda. Malaria, easily preventable in the developed world, but a colossal impediment to life in Uganda. So 2 boxes of Ahavas Sidurim are temporarily in limbo. But the other 2 boxes arrived in Nangolato, except they were supposed to be delivered to Namonyonye. So a man named Jacob, who used to live in Nangolato, moved to Namonyonye, but then he had a falling out with his uncle and said, I'm never going to live in this community or go to this synagogue again, moved somewhere else. Ever heard of that happening? But this man Jacob volunteered, and he went back to Nangolato, and he picked up these 2 boxes weighing 40 pounds and put them with himself on a bus, drove for some hours, changed to a second bus, drove for some hours, and delivered them to the village that they were supposed to be in, Namanyoni. Jacob. Our Sidurim are now in the hands of a community of Ugandan Jews, and they call themselves the Abba Yudaya. And in this village of Namonyoni, it turns out that there are 8 villages in a certain region of Uganda where there are Jews, named the Abba Yudaya, which means the people of Yudaya, Yud Jew. In the village where 2 boxes essentially arrived, there are 47 Jewish households. 47 households numbering 218 people. And they want Sidurim. They want conservative Sidurim, because they are aware of the importance of having both their boys and the girls growing up side by side with an expression of Jewish life and Jewish heart. And there are some communities in Uganda where there are Orthodox presence in these outskirts villages, but it's very clear that in those communities, the males have one point of access and the females do not. And so within these 8 villages, of which I am now becoming aware because of Kulandu, there is a strong thirst for conservative education, conservative guidance, conservative prayer books. And Kulandu is providing these materials, along with organizing opportunities for people to volunteer, to go, to teach, occasionally bring medical supplies, and so on. And so those Sidurim, which we used to hold, are now in their hands. And I want us to look at our hands. And I want us to picture another hand laying atop each one of us. People in Uganda, and they don't look like me, but they're holding a sidur, just like you. And they're singing, and they're praying, and they're gathering, and they're learning. And we know Hine Matov, and so do they. And they sing it in a Lugandan style. And the accent in the Hebrew is a little bit different, and then the Lugandan, allow me. Hine Matovu, Manayhu, Sheveti Achim, Gam Yachaku. Hine Matovu, Umanayhu, Sheveti Achim, Gam Yachaku. And then they sing it in Ugandan. Lapa Buek Ulio Krungi Wek Usansa, Abaluganda Akutula. Hebrew, English, Lugandan. The words call out from 3,000 plus years ago, and they're expressing joy and aspiration and hope to bring forth a voice, a message, a care, demonstrating values of life, the need to be part of a community, the earnest desire to teach and bring love and compassion for people who are isolated, the message of singing and praying, the passion to enjoy Shabbat and Jewish holidays. All this runs deep within their community. They resolve to eat only kosher food, and for them it is a great challenge because kosher meat is not available in a quick frozen package the way it is for us in New Orleans, Atlanta, or Birmingham, and we just order it online or pick it up. For them, because their diet is so limited since they are so poor. When they occasionally splurge and they take a chicken to the shochet, they ensure that the blood is removed, that the meat is rinsed and washed, indicating regard for animal life. And of course, they separate their dishes, meat and dairy. Most of the people are dirt poor and living in most of these villages without electricity and without running water, most villages. The town Apash, which was to receive our Sidurim, with 25 families, but there was the malaria outbreak. They made their own bricks by hand, and they built their own small synagogue by hand. And we are awaiting Sidurim from Mobile, Alabama, when Beth from Encinitas knows that it's safe to travel. Jacob, the volunteer who left his former community because of an argument, wanted to buy a plot of land to farm. He sold his only goat, but he thought he had other money from another source, but that money fell through, and so he didn't have the full payment, so the transaction fell through. He doesn't have his plot of land, and he can't get his goat back. Apash, the village with the brick-built shul, has 30 children with almost nothing to eat. Kulanu, the organization, which means all of us, is normally set up to provide Sidurim, Chumashim, Talitot, volunteer Jewish educators, people who bring materials and goods and medical supplies as volunteers, made an emergency grant of $800 to feed 30 children. $800 to feed 30 children for the months of September, October, November, and December. $800 feeding 30 children for 4 months, most of the meals being 1 to 2 meals a day, most of the meals consisting of a porridge of something made of something akin to maize. Some of the adults managed to eat with those meals as well. The school has been turned into a feeding center. Children don't learn when they're hungry. It's not easy being a Jew in Uganda. Adults and children are called vile names. Adults who express their desire to be Jewish, to live as Jews, often lose their jobs and are oppressed because they want to be Jewish. For decades, in numerous villages, Christians and Muslims have looked down upon the Abba Yudaya, Ugandans whose hands are holding your hands at this very moment. And at this very moment, we're not only entering a new year, we begin a renewed journey, and a journey of renewal. We are pledging to examine our behavior critically, to improve our lives, to scrutinize ourselves through the eyes of Judaism and the heart of Torah, to improve how we live daily, to magnify our touch upon this world, and for the next days, weeks, and yes, years ahead, that is our mission. I'm challenging us to see our hands as holding the hands of Jews who are in desperate need. Jews in El Salvador, descended from conversos who fled from the Inquisition and have been gradually over 500 years attempting to reunite with Judaism, shunned by Ashkenazi survivors of the Holocaust who settled in El Salvador after World War II, probably because the El Salvadoran conversos don't look like us. Jews in Nigeria who have poor access to the internet So they built a platform in a high tree, and 4 or 5 people take turns climbing up atop a ladder to get onto this platform to share one computer to learn about Judaism and to communicate with the outside Jewish world. To hold hands with Ugandan Jews living in 8 different villages across a span of miles, struggling to cook food on a Friday afternoon after carrying water in jugs balanced on their heads from a well at the school because they have no running water, all in order that they have food on Shabbos day. We are opening our spirits and nourishing our souls this year, fortified by the devotion of Jews who look a little bit different, live in extreme poverty, rejoice over the same Jewish traditions that we experience, and refuse to give up. In spite of being an impoverished minority, dwelling in primitive conditions, and beset by animosity. In spite of these challenges and adversities, they sing, they dance, they praise God, and they step forward into the future with perseverance and determination. We hold their hands. We share their sidurim. We walk together. And I will be sharing more of the Abba Yudaya Jews in the future. And yes, we will be sharing tzedakah with them, because that is what we do when we feel the hunger in their outstretched fingertips. It's Yom Kippur, and the Abba Yudaya Jews are dressed in their best clothing, spending all day in synagogue seeking forgiveness. And we all agree that one of the most fundamental expressions of growth and improvement comes from empathizing with others, even those different than ourselves. And thus we shall in the year ahead, and we shall grow together. Thank you for returning to Shul. And thank you for walking together with Jews of all types into the year ahead. L'shana tova tikatev tefatein. May each of us and every one of us be signed, sealed for blessing and for life in the year ahead. We all say, Amen.
Inne matovu manaim shevet avim gam yachad. Inne matovu manaim shevet avim gam yachad. Inne matov shevet avim gam yachad. Inne matov shevet avim gam yachad. Inne matov manaim shevet avim gam yachad. Inne matov manaim shevet avim gam yachad. Inne matov shevet avim gam yachad. Inne matov shevet avim gam yachad.
the Baruch will rise, page 207. Page 207.
Baruch
That's on page 207, Hebrew and English side.
ומבדיל יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמידים לך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, אמן אמרי ורבים.
Amen. First paragraph on page 208. You loved your people, the house of Israel, with infinite love. You taught us Torah and mitzvot, statutes and laws. Therefore, Adonai our God, as we lie down or rise up, we shall think of your laws and speak of them, rejoicing in your words of Torah and your mitzvot forever and ever. For they are our life and the fullness of our days. And on them we will meditate day and night. May we never withdraw your love from us. Baruch atah Adonai, who loves the people of Israel.
Ki chayei v'rech yameinu v'hem negei yomam v'layla v'avatcha ve'avatcha tasim imenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai.
Next page, a moment of silence, so perhaps considering a marginal note. On page 210, one word changes my entire understanding of this paragraph, this entire stanza on page 210. And it's a function of this new mantra. It's about halfway down after the poetic italicized stanzas. It's just probably makes mochets to Moses and Miriam. And the prior Siddur was Moses. The insertion of one word changes an entire page, alters an entire understanding of prayer, of how we view people. The original Hebrew only has the word Moses in it, but this modified Hebrew has Miriam because the editors of this prayer book said it's time for us to see the role of our women in our community as leaders. And so the name Miriam has been inserted here in the Hebrew and the English. One word can change an entire view. U'malchuto ratzon.
U'malchuto ratzon kiblu elehem Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael lechani shira v'simcha rabba v'emru kulam mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar v'kodesh nora tehilot oseh melech malchutecha ra'u banecha bokem lifnei Moshe zehi anu ve'amro Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar ki v'ad Adonai et Yaakov u'golo b'yad chazak mimenu baruch atah Adonai Ai, dai, 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 dai. Ai, Gal Yisrael.
The Michamocha speaks of what once happened 3,200 years ago with Moses. The people were journeying forth. Pharaoh's army was crushed by the sea, and they looked forward, and they didn't know where they were going, but they knew they were at least secure, and there was no longer a threat pursuing them. The Michamocha is every single morning and every single night, but it's always referring to the past tense of what once was. Hashkideinu on 2:11 is every single night of the year, and it's always present tense. And every night we seek a sense of calm, peace, hopeful tranquility. But we don't only pray for our own individual selves, our own individual families. We pray for everyone. That's Hashkiveinu, all of us. The stanzas of English on page 211. Hashkiveinu, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully and to awaken again to life, our sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel, and save us for the sake of your name. Shield us, remove from us enemies and pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow, and remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you, God, watched over and deliver us, and you are the sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace, now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people of Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Ushmorteteinu, go'enu l'chaim le'shalom, me'atav yad olam, ufros aleinu, sukat shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu, ve'al amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Amen. On page 212, it's the second little line at the top of the page.
Ki vayom hazeh yichaper alechem v'taher etchem mikol chatoteichem lifnei Adonai titaru.
Gosh.
Yitgadal, yitgadash, shemei rabbah,
Amen.
ve'amadi brak yirtei, ve'amliv malchutei, ve'chayecho, v'yomecho, chayecho beit Yisrael, ba'at לקרוא בכתב שירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה ויברו, אמן.
For a moment, turn to page 213, and as you glance, flipping pages 213 through 218, that's the Amida that's the same for Rosh Hashanah, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. It's a modified version of the Shabbos Amida. But then, from 218 through 220, we have the references to seeking forgiveness, Yesham and Yalpeh. And that's what makes this Amida the Yom Kippur Amida. So you might consider varying passages spanning pages 213 through 220 derives the silent prayer. It's a pleasure at this time to welcome the president of our synagogue, Dr. Katie Webster, to the meeting.
Lashana Tova. Congregation, Ahavas Chesed Synagogue Board, Rabbi Stephen Silverman, and our staff wish you a sweet, healthy, and prosperous New Year, year 5783. The High Holy Days, days of awe, are a time of reflection and connection, a time for reviewing individual goals and community goals. After being closed for 2 years, we are reopening our doors and building back our community. Now is the time to review our purpose in being here and to use our strength to achieve our goals. You are our strength. Thank you for your support. We thank Rabbi Steve for his flexibility during the past 2 years. The online services have enabled us to continue to worship as a Jewish community. Thank you, David Smith, for your technical support, which made it all possible. It is wonderful to be back in the building, physically together for these high holidays and our regular services and activities. Religious school classes resumed in September with more students, new teachers, and a strong curriculum. The sisterhood is back in action. As I look around and see your beautiful, yes, beautiful faces, I feel surrounded by warmth and friendship and support, and I see the beauty of this space. The beauty of our sanctuary does not happen without a great deal of support from our generous congregation. God spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel that they should set aside a gift for me from every person whose heart moves him. You should take me a gift and let them build a sanctuary, and I will dwell in their midst." This gift is not measured by its value, but by its intent. The generosity of members past and present has made it possible to create this beautiful home for our community. Our dues do not fully cover the cost of maintaining our synagogue building, the grounds, the cemetery, the religious school, the support staff, the rabbi, the cost associated with community events and security systems. We all come to high holiday services for different reasons. Until now, I have not taken the time to think about that reason for me. Why do I give my time and resources to Ahavas Chesed? How has Ahavas Chesed been there for me and my family? Our first experience was when our 3-year-old daughter, Sarah, started attending Gan Shalom. She immediately connected with Miss Leslie, who was such a great influence on Sarah. We later joined the synagogue in time for Evan to begin preparation for his bar mitzvah with Rabbi Steve, and our 2 children studied Hebrew with Miss Helen Small of blessed memory. We deepened our relationship with the community. I was about 49 years old at the time. Sarah was 7 and Evan was 9. I had already had part of my right lung removed and finished a course of chemotherapy the year prior. My chest x-ray had been looking okay, and on follow-up suddenly showed 11 new nodules involving both lungs. It was devastating news. I prayed. Maybe it was something else. Maybe it was an infection. Anything else would be better. I called Rabbi Steve. He gave me, my husband John, and my children the support we needed to get through the next few years. I had support also from fellow congregants. My dear friend Melanie Lovell sat with me at every chemo infusion when John was unable to be with me. Unfortunately, the chemo was not working. Eventually, I went to UAB for a drug trial that turned out to be a miracle drug for me, and my cancer responded. But it later relapsed, and I switched to a second-generation drug, and my cancer again responded. I am now on my 3rd targeted therapy, and I'm still on the rabbi's prayer list. Without the synagogue, the rabbi, and my dear friends in our community, it would have been a much darker time for me and my family. You, Ahavas Chesed Synagogue, were there for me and my family during those very tough times. The reason I'm telling you this story is to affirm that we need our community. The community is my rock, my shelter, my special place, and I will be here doing what I can to give back. So I ask you to deeply consider what the synagogue and our community means to you. What gift will you bring to build the sanctuary? May Ahavas Chesed Synagogue continue to support Jewish education, life cycle events, tzedakah, and may it always be here during the unexpected crisis to continue to be a rock and sanctuary for those in need. Lador Vador, and we all say, Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Katie, for your devotion and your support, and for all that you have done to share you and John and your family with our show these past years. And thank you to all of us here, and there are many joining in online as well. We're at a turning point for the better. We've been perhaps hiding, perhaps reluctant to come back, perhaps needing a new type of shelter, and now we have this shelter. And we echo what you said, Dr. Katie. It's up to all of us and more to continue to support this shelter so we all have a place. And we thank you. And Ya'aleh on 2:23 takes hold of an element in Dr. Katie's remarks. Ya'aleh Tachanunenu, may our supplications, our words, our needs ascend to heaven. May that message that is from deep within go beyond us to the somehow, not aware, but the somehow. Ya'aleh on page 223.
Amen.
25. On page 226, in just a moment, we're taking ourselves back to our minds to that scene. The Israelites have constructed a golden calf at the base of Mount Sinai, and Moses has shouted the first set of the 10 great words. And he comes back up, and God's about to destroy the people, and Moses says, don't. Please forgive them. And that element of please forgive leaves that scene in the book of Exodus chapter 32 and 33 and comes into Yom Kippur, and it is on many, many pages throughout Yom Kippur. We're placing ourselves in that same framework of as a community seeking forgiveness. That's the lever upon which this turns. It's Vaya'avor Adonai al panav vayikra, about the upper 6, 7, 8 lines on page 226.
Vayavor Adonai al panav vayikra.
Lashon Piyut, Kihine Kachomer, page 227.
Ki hine kachomer be'ad ha'otzer birzoto martiv u'birzoto mekatzer ken anachnu be'adcha chesed notzer labrit habit labrit habit labrit habit labrit habit ve'al tefen da'yetzer ki hine ka'even ve'ad hamsatet birzoto oiches u'birzoto mechatet ken anachnu be'yadcha mechaye u'memotet labrit habit labrit habit labrit habit labrit habit ve'al tefen da'yetzer ki hine kegarzen ve'ad echarash birzoto didei la'or u'birzoto perash ken anachnu be'yadcha tomecha nivarash labrit habit labrit habit labrit habit labrit habit ve'al tefen da'yetzer ki hine ika'ege ve'ad hamalach birzoto oches u'birzoto shilach ken anachnu be'yadcha el tov v'salach labrit habit labrit habit labrit habit labrit habit ve'al tefen da'yetzer.
The last two stanzas in English on page 227. As cloth in the hand of the draper, who drapes, who twists it at will, so are we in your hand, righteous God. Recall your covenant, do not heed the accuser. As silver in the hand of the smelter, who alloys or refines it at will, so are we in your hand, healer of wounds. Recall your covenant, do not heed the accuser. Please turn to page 232. And in a moment, a little bit of English prior to continuing on the next page, which will be Shema Kolenu. But just, again, seeing the also and what's playing here on the screen, on the page. On the right-hand side, again, is the 13 attributes, that reenactment of Moses on Sinai, pleading for God to bring forth forgiveness. And here in the upper left corner, it's the martial note entitled the 13 attributes. We read aloud, please. The liturgy for Yom Kippur is filled with the image of God's mercy and love overcoming harsh judgment. The rabbis taught that human behavior should imitate God. our admission of our inadequacy to stand up to absolute standards of judgment, and our expectation of God's forgiveness teach us about the kindness we need in approaching others. Love, compassion, and kindness. Shema Kolenu on page 233. The Chazal will begin and we will echo each sentence, first the Shema, then the Hashivenu, then Al, and then Al.
Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Usprachim Aleinu, Ekavel Rachmim Ratzon Tfilateinu.
Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus Barachim Aleinu, V'kavel Rachamim Uvratzon Et Tfilateinu.
Hashiveinu Tanai Elecha, Nashuva Chadish Yameinu Kekedem.
Hashiveinu Adonai Elecha V'nashuva Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. Tashlichenu Vilkanecha, Ruach Chodsheka, Al Tikach Mimenu.
Tashlichenu Leitzikna, Kichlot Kochreinu, Al Tasveinu.
Al Tashlichenu Leitzikna, Kichlot Kochreinu, Al Tasveinu. On the top of page 234, Kiyanu al Yachad, the reprisal is Kiyanu Anu Anu Anu. This is the we, this is the us, we are here all together. Ata Ata Ata, you O God, you O God, you O God. This piyut, this poem, this song, this prayer strives to bridge the gap between all of us and God.
Eloheinu v'lo Eloteinu, Salam Lanu, Mechalanu, Kaper Lanu, Ki Anu Mechal Ve'ata Eloheinu, Anu Anecha Ve'ata Avinu, Anu Anecha Ve'ata Adonenu, Anu Ke'alecha Ve'ata Elkeinu, Anu Nachatecha Ve'ata Goraleinu, Anu Tzonecha Ve'ata Ro'einu, Anu Karmecha Ve'ata Notreinu, Anu Voatecha Ve'ata Yotzreinu, Anu Rayatecha Ve'ata Dodeinu, Anu Segulatecha Ve'ata Korbeinu, Anu Amnecha Ve'ata Malkeinu, Anu Ma'amirecha Ve'ata Ma'amireinu.
The bottom English stanza on 234. Our God and God of our ancestors, hear our prayer. Do not ignore our plea. Our God and God of our ancestors, we are neither so insolent nor so obstinate as to claim in your presence that we are righteous without sin, for we, like our ancestors who came before us, have sinned. Please rise, Ashamnu, on page 235. 236, the bottommost English stanza part of Al-Khayf. You know the mysteries of the universe, the deepest secrets of everyone alive. You probe our innermost depths. You examine our thoughts and feelings. Nothing escapes you. Nothing is secret from you. Therefore, may it be your will, our God, our ancestors, to forgive us for all our sins, to pardon us for all our iniquities, to bring us home from all our transgressions. This is a connecting little piece, you might say, between our Shamans, which we just chanted, and the Al-Khayf in a moment. And every element within Yom Kippur, in terms of seeking forgiveness and pardon, is voiced in the collective. We, us, ours, we're all in this together. And in a way, it also shelters us and protects us because no single individual is pointed out. So we can stand as a group, and obviously, God knows each one of us. That you and I are in this together. And so being as a community, standing and saying we've all, in one way or another, fallen short of our capacities, protects us and lifts us up and gives us strength in the coming year. The Al-Khayf, a reminder that each one of us and all of us together have missed the mark, or may we succeed in the coming year, on page 237. On the English side, the bottom of 237 onto the top of the next page, that stanza. We have sinned against you through denial and deceit, and we have sinned against you by taking bribes. We have sinned against you by clever cynicism, and we have sinned against you by speaking ill of others. We have sinned against you by the way we do business. We have sinned against you in our eating and drinking. We have sinned against you by greed and oppressive interest. We have sinned against you through arrogance. We have sinned against you in everyday conversation. And we have sinned against you through conspiratorial alliances. We have sinned against you through condescension. And we have sinned against you through stubbornness. For all these sins, forgiving God, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement.
Selah.
240. Salah means grant pardon. Rachal means grant pardon. Kapir should activate our ears, but kapir should be recognizable from the word Kippur, Yom Kippur. The name of this holiday in the Torah is what? Yom HaKippurim, which means the Yom Kippurs, the atonements, plural. That's the vision of the book of Numbers and of Leviticus, of Vayikra Bamidbar concerning this holiday. Atonements and seeking and granting and receiving forgivenesses, sincerities between the individual, the neighbor, and God. On page 240, the English followed by Huyanein V'Ivri. May the one who answered Sarah pass the time of her youth.
Huyaneinu.
Abraham on Mount Moriah.
Huyaneinu.
Isaac, her son, bound on the altar.
Huyaneinu.
Rebekah, as her son struggled within her.
Huyaneinu. Sing it with me.
Jacob at Bethel.
Huyaneinu.
Land of loneliness.
Huyaneinu.
Rachel, desperate for a child.
Huyaneinu.
Joseph, abandoned in prison.
Huyaneinu.
The Hebrew midwives as they stood at the birthing place.
Huyaneinu.
Yocheved, having faith on the bank of the Nile.
Huyaneinu.
The people Israel on the shores of the sea.
Huyaneinu.
Moses standing on the slopes of Sinai.
Huyaneinu.
Miriam with her well of water.
Huyaneinu.
Aaron offering incense to God.
Huyaneinu.
Pinchas seeking his place above the crowd.
Huyaneinu.
The daughters of Zelophehad standing their ground.
Huyaneinu.
And those who are righteous, upright, decent, and compassionate answer us.
Huyaneinu.
Remaining standing, Avinu Malkeinu, which the ark is opened on page 243. Page 243.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chatan Lecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Imanu Melech Elata. Avinu Malkeinu,
In the middle, antiphonally.
Avinu Malkeinu, Achzirein B'Shvashtem Alechanecha.
The red infant transliteration of the Hebrew bold. Avinu Malkeinu, Hachazireinu B'Tshuva Shlema Lachanacha.
Avinu Malkeinu, Slach B'Fua Shlema L'Cholei Amecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shlach B'Fua Shlema L'Cholei Amecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, Zochrein V'Zikron Tov L'Chanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, Zochreinu V'Zikron Tov L'Chanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kodbein V'Sefer Chayim Tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kodbein V'Sefer Tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kodbein V'Sefer Geula Yeshua.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kodbein V'Sefer Geula Yeshua.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kodbein V'Sefer Parnassah V'Chalkala.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kodbein V'Sefer Parnassah V'Chalkala.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kodbein V'Sefer Zechuyot.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kodbein V'Sefer Zechuyot.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kodbein V'Sefer Slicha U'Tfilah.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kodbein V'Sefer Slicha U'Tfilah. Avinu Malkeinu means our Father, our King. Zochreinu means remember us. Kodveinu means inscribe us. They're seeking now that God remember us, inscribe us, seal us in the book of life, the book of health, the book of peace, the book of blessing, the book of renewal, the book of security, the book of safety, the book of love, the book of hope, the book of presence, the book of confidence. Avinu Malkeinu, the top of page 244.
Avi Malkeinu, Aser L'Manchayim Lo L'Maneinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu L'Maneinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu L'Maneinu, Ki Emanu Masim, Aser Imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Aser Imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed, V'hoshienu, Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu V'aneinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu V'aneinu, Ki Emanu Masim, Aser Imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Aser Imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed, V'hoshienu.
Remaining standing, the Aleinu on page 246.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon ha'kol, v'aseh v'julah v'yotzer v'reshit, shelo tzadim v'gnei ha'ratzot, v'lo tzamadim v'nishkatot ha'adama, shelo tzam v'nekahem, v'gor aleinu k'kol ha'onam, v'anachnu korim, v'nishtachim, v'modim, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. כך כתוב לתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, היום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
And we are seated. For a moment, just turning back to page 245. Kaddish Elaine nearly concludes the service officially, and then in a moment will be the Morris Kaddish, and thereafter we'll conclude with Ladon Shalom Lee and the Adon Lam. For now, the Kaddish Elaine on page 245.
יתגדל ויתגדש לרבה בעמד נברא גירותי ומליך מלכותי וחייכות
our markings of our weeks. And so with your forbearance, Kaddish is associated with the previous days and soon the upcoming days. Remembering with great love Abraham Miller, Ann Wiedenbaum, Vasily Koppel, Devorah Yablonsky, Esther Novoselsky, Eva Davidoff, Hyman Bronstein, Eileen Sherman, I. Harriet Brooke, Irving Spindle, Jacob Perlman, Lonnie Voigt, Joyce Marcus, Maurice Chasson, Morris Beskin, Max Mishkin, Millie Rosenblatt, Rita Miller, Serena Livitz, Sidney Goldridge, Sylvia Goldberg, Yetta Lee, Laura Lapkin, Yetta Sadowski, Basha Gilbert, Vinnie Lips, Clifford Caslow, Gedalia Gilbert, Rabbi Herbert Silverman, Mary Hoffman, Mayor Mitchell, Michael Bronstein, Samuel Prince, Robert Handmaker, Yetta Sadowski, Norman Jett, Nathan Friedlander, Samuel Gollum, Peggy Stone, Rachel Jaffa, Sam Rips, Lou Einstein, Susan Perlman, Louis Hoffman, Sarah Briskman, Marcus Charnetsky, remembering Marcia Green, Ann Mitchell, Les Kramer. Are there any other names to mention at this time?
George Hertzberg.
George Hertzberg. Those so inclined are invited to rise at this time for Kaddish on page 247. Perhaps those at home also have a name to share at this time. We offer a prayer together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbeinu ve'oma divrach pirutei v'yamlit malchutei b'chayechon u'b'yomechon u'b'chayei t'chol et Yisrael ba'agara u'b'zman karib v'yimeru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba v'barach L'olam l'olomei ol'maya Yitvarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitala shmei kedusha b'rivku Le'ela le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Da'amiram Ola V'imeru Amen. Yehei Shalama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Oleinu El Kol Yisrael V'imeru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Ramah Uyaseh Shalom Oleinu El Kol Yisrael V'imeru Amen. We say Kaddish on Shabbos, we say Kaddish on Yom Tov, we say Kaddish on the Yomim, or the days of Av, we say Kaddish perhaps on a day of the week. And when we do, we're attaching the name of someone we love to the name of God symbolically. You said Yehei Shmei, Ambrichu. That means that you're attaching the name of your loved one symbolically to the name of God within the concept, what it means to pray, to associate with words, seeking and expressing longing and hope and concern, perhaps gaining compassion from someone by, perhaps gaining support, perhaps readying ourselves to give support and compassion to somebody else. We're attaching the names of our loved ones to God's name. May there be a permanence of the name and the memory of your loved ones. May the permanence of the name and the memory of your loved ones go on as enduring as the heavens above, the stars in their orbits, the sky and the wind, and you are loved. On page 248, this psalm associated with this season of the year And it's one little stanza, it's one thing I ask, it's a little bit of English followed by the Hebrew found in the transliteration, the red ink, or Ahavas Chesed on the facing page. So on the top of 248, about 9 lines down, one stanza, we say, one thing I ask of Adonai, this I seek, to dwell in the house of God all the days of my life, to behold God's beauty and visit in God's sanctuary.
Achalti Beit Adonai Otavakesh. Achalti Beit Adonai Otavakesh. Shivti Beit Adonai Kol Yemei
And in just a moment, we're concluding with the Adon Olam. Quick reminders, of course, starting tomorrow, 9 until 1:30-ish, we'll see. We'll take a break. At 4 o'clock on Zoom, you've received the email, the flyers. 4 to 5 o'clock, it's on Zoom, home computers, or phone for that matter if you want. It's a healing service. And we're connecting ourselves, as we've done for 2 years prior, with the Conservative Synagogue in Montgomery. We're calling it Zooming from Mobile to Montgomery, and my colleague in Montgomery is calling it Zooming from Montgomery to Mobile. We've become a connected community these past 2.5 years because of our Zoom services and programming. So if you're so inclined, and it's healing of any type, and if you wish to remain anonymous, just mute your camera on your own device. That's 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock tomorrow, 5:30, the concluding Nidre Mila service, and then we have the final show for, of course, the Break the Fast sponsored by Sisterhood. I am ecstatic. We have Sisterhood coming back, and we're super excited. We have beautiful flowers on the beamer from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We have Sisterhood that is starting up again. It's very exciting. We have a Break the Fast tomorrow. It's going to be a lot going forward. And again, strive to Alex Friedman. We'll conclude with the Adon Olam on page 249.
You know how we took all that program? Make me an angel, flies from Mobile to Montgomery. You just have to sing it every time. Other than that, it's perfect. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nidre Le'it Nasa V'Chesokol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Hikot HaKol Le'vado Imlok Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Omer Ve'hu
Until the tomorrow, be safe. Thank you for joining us.